here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. I'm with you, Jasmine Mctague, here live from Jersey City, New Jersey, watching the news headlines. Now, details at this time. Our first story. Amid a surge in some New York City violent crimes, Wall Street bigwigs continue to encourage younger staffers to come into the office, but to do so with caution. At Bank of America, senior executives have quietly encouraged younger employees to dress down to attract less attention as they make their way to B of A's tower at One Bryant Park. These execs have told their staffers that dressing up or wearing anything with the Bank of America logo could make them a target. One bank employee told On the Money he is on high alert after he spotted someone with a knife near the office during a recent trek to the Manhattan office. Of course, it's not just Bank of America where worries over crime pervades. The city reported 15% increase in felony assaults over the past 28 days as of November 28th when compared to the same period a year ago. According to the NYPD statistics, murder rates have surged 42% over and after daylight saving times and ended last month. More people are commuting home in the dark, giving worries over crime a renewed focus. In areas surrounding Hudson Yards, the problem has been especially acute. For commuters coming into Penn Station or Port Authority bus terminal, walking the few blocks in the far west side after dark on largely deserted streets, except for sometimes menacing vagrants, can feel dangerous, sources told the On the Money. Bank of America is adjacent to Times Square, and like Hudson Yards, many employees use Penn Station and Port Authority as transportation hubs en route to the office. And now for our story 2. Los Angeles. The man who shot himself in the foot during an attempted robbery on the 6,000 block of Garosa Drive in Hollywood Hill early Wednesday morning has been identified as the suspect in a shooting death of Jacqueline Aviant, 81, roughly an hour earlier in Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills Police Department announced in a press release that they have made an arrest in a December 1st homicide of Jacqueline Avant. The suspect is under arrest is 29-year-old Ariel Maynor of Los Angeles. Multiple surveillance videos, including city cameras, showed the suspect's vehicle heading eastbound out of Beverly Hills shortly after Ms. Avant was shot. At 3:30 a.m. Wednesday, LAPD Hollywood Division responded to a reported shooting at the residence in the 6,000 block of Garosa Drive. When they arrived, they found a man in the backyard suffering from a gunshot wound to his foot. Following a thorough investigation by the LAPD, it was determined that a burglary occurred at the residence and the suspect had accidentally shot himself in the foot. He was subsequently arrested by LAPD and transported to the local hospital and has been in law enforcement custody since. Key News reported on the story along with footage from the scene. According to the press release, Beverly Hills detectives responded to the Hollywood Division and collected evidence connecting Maynors to the homicide of Jacqueline Avant, including the suspected weapon. Beverly Hills detectives have assumed investigation responsibility for both cases. And now for story 3. An investigation is underway following a shooting that injured a woman who was sitting in her car, police say. In the early hours of Thursday morning, Atlanta police headed to Grady Memorial Hospital after reports of a person injured following a shooting on Maury Ave. The woman told officers that she was sitting in her vehicle in the parking lot when she was approached by the suspect. She then said that the suspect shot into her car, ultimately striking her. In a matter of seconds, the suspected shooter fled the scene on foot. At this time, police have not yet released further details surrounding this incident. Stay with the CBS 46 News for the latest on the developing story. And now for story 4. Miami-Dade police are investigating a crash in southwest Miami-Dade where a FedEx driver was run over by his own truck. The accident happened around 3:20 p.m. at Southwest 58th Street and Southwest 97th Ave, according to police. Investigators say the 34-year-old victim was distributing packages on his assigned route when at one point his truck failed to start. The victim began to work on the front exterior of the truck and it began to roll forward. Despite his efforts to evade the moving truck, he was pinned underneath and dragged on the road. Witnesses told police that the man tried to get out of the way, but couldn't and was run over, becoming pinned under the front of the truck. The Miami-Dade police said bystanders were able to help get the man out as rescuers arrived on scene. The driver was transported to the hospital where police say he is in extremely critical condition. Right now, we are holding out for hope, said Detective Chris Thompson of the Miami-Dade Police Department. We pray for his family that they get to be thankful this Christmas and not be enduring in some sort of tragedy. And now, a short break from the Daily English News, Millennium News 24/7. Stay tuned.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome back to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Updates. Here's our story 5. Invalid paper plates are running rampant in the state of Texas. The state of Texas is one of the worst in the country, and Harris County is the worst in the state, according to officials. Sergeant Jose Escabano, who is part of the paper plate task force for Travis County Precinct 3 Constable's office, said there are at least 1.8 million fraudulent paper plates on the road in Texas. He said that it is a conservative number too. When asked if he sees a lot of illegitimate paper plates, Houston Police Auto Theft Sergeant Tracy Hicks said, "A lot is an understatement." Hicks said has gotten worse locally in the last 5 years. The counterfeit plates have become a way for criminals to hide their identities. In each of the cases, the suspects had paper plates on the cars used during murders. They were caught on surveillance video, and police put out a plea to the public to help locate the suspects. Those cases captured the attention of our city, but they certainly are not the only ones. Surveillance cameras captured Sandra Garcia being robbed of her purse in April on the north side of the city. Garcia said the men followed her about 15 miles from a bank on the southwest side of the city. "He was trying to pull it, and I pressed hard, and he dragged me," Garcia recalled. "He dragged me until he left with it." The suspects managed to get away with Garcia's purse, which had $10,000 in cash. The suspect who robbed her have not been caught. Both cars involved had paper plates, according to Houston Police Robbery Division. And now for story 6. Dallas police say one person has been killed and one person is in custody after a possible road rage shooting in North Dallas. The call came in just after 2:15 p.m. on Central Expressway near Forest Lane. Police had no additional details immediately available, but homicide detectives were called to the scene. The southbound service road of Central Expressway at Forest was shut down, along with traffic traveling under the freeway. Dallas Fire Rescue says only one rescue unit was sent to the scene, which is located close to Medical City Dallas Hospital. There was no immediate words on the victim or the person taken into custody. And now for story 7. The search for a missing Detroit woman is now a homicide case with a suspect in custody. Detroit police said Thursday that they have identified a body discovered near the Chandler Park on Camden Ave in October as of Darcel Ward, a 47-year-old mother and grandmother. Ward was last seen alive on Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, at around 1 p.m. in the 14,000 block of Santa Rosa Drive near Eaton Street, according to police at the city's 10th precinct. Ward's family reported her missing on September 17th and told police that her ex-boyfriend, who had a pending court case, had been abusive. The ex, whose name has not yet been released, has been arrested and charged with first-degree murder, according to police. He remains in the Wayne County Jail awaiting a court appearance. Police did not say how it believed that Ward died, and that they have not released any further details about the slaying. The department added in a statement, "Our thoughts and prayers are with this family as they begin their healing process." And now for story 8. Now that the next phase of the Loop 1604 construction project is underway, some neighbors report being jolted awake by the road work. Crews are excavating and using controlled explosions to clear materials at the Blanco Road intersection. Our experience was the blasting was very alarming. We heard a very loud noise and then our house vibrated. The walls shook, the windows vibrated, and the wood in the house creaked, said David Black, who lives south of Loop 1604. Since we are not experts, we weren't really sure what to make of it and were concerned. The blasts were about 30 minutes to 1 hour apart, so there was no sleeping for us between 11:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. or so. And now, a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News 24/7. Stay tuned.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome back to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. And now for our story 9. President Joe Biden looked out over an audience of government scientists and framed his latest plan for fighting COVID-19 as an opportunity to at last put an end to the divisiveness over the virus, calling the politicalization of the issue, a sad, sad commentary. And then he tacked on a political dig. Some people on the other team, he said Thursday, were threatening to hold up government spending and endangering the nation's credit out of pique over vaccination requirements. It was a quick aside in Biden's speech that otherwise struck a largely bipartisan tone. But it served as a fresh evidence that after taking it on the chin for months, Biden and his allies are increasingly willing to hit back, casting Republicans as the true obstacle to the nation's recovery from the pandemic. The Democratic president efforts to confront the coronavirus have long attracted a litany of fiery statements, legal challenges, and more than a few barbs from his predecessor. But Biden was elected on the promise of depoliticalizing the virus response and following the signs. So responding in kind wasn't seen as an option early on. Biden's aides in the early months of his presidency pressed him to ignore criticism from the Republicans, arguing that responding would further inject politics into the vaccination campaign and harm his all out effort to get Americans to roll up their sleeves. But now, as public patience wears thin amid the emergency of the new Omicron variant and some GOP lawmakers' threats to shut down the government over vaccine requirements, the White House and its allies are seizing on what they see as a political opening. And now for story 10. Measures used to counter the Delta variant should remain the foundation for fighting the coronavirus pandemic, even in the face of new Omicron version of the virus. The World Health Organization officials said Friday, while acknowledging that the travel restrictions imposed by some countries may buy time, while about 36 countries worldwide have reported Omicron infections, including India, on Thursday, the numbers are so far are small outside of South Africa, which is facing a rapid rise in COVID-19 cases and where the new variant may be becoming dominant. Still, much remains unclear about Omicron, including whether it is more contagious, as of some health authorities suspect whether it makes people more seriously ill or whether it can evade vaccine protection. Border control delays the virus coming in and buys time, but every country and every community must prepare for new surges in cases. Dr. Takeshi Kasai, the WHO regional director for the Western Pacific, told reporters Friday during a virtual news conference from the Philippines. The positive news in all of this is that none of the information we have currently about Omicron suggests we need to change the directions of our response. That means continuing to push for higher vaccination rates, abiding by social distancing guidelines, and wearing masks, among other measures, says the WHO Regional Emergency Director, Dr. Babatunde Olawokoro. He added that the health system must ensure we are treating the right patients in the right place at the right time, and so therefore ensuring that the ICU beds are available, particularly for those who need them. And now for story 11. Pope Francis lamented centuries of hostilities and prejudice that have divided the Catholics and Orthodox as he met Friday with the leader of Cyprus Greek Orthodox Church and pointed to work of charity as a means to help heal the rift between the Catholics West and the Orthodox East. Archbishop Chrysostomos II hosted Francis for a private talk at his residence and then invited the Pope to the brand new Orthodox Cathedral of St. Barnabas for an encounter with the Holy Synod, the highest decision-making body of the Greek Orthodox Church. Sitting in front of the gilded iconostas or altar, as an Orthodox clergyman chanted, Francis lamented the broad furrows that history had cleaved between Catholics and Orthodox as a result of a 1,000-year scheme, when God wanted all Christians united. Centuries of division and separation have made us assimilate even involuntarily hostility and prejudice with regards to one another. Preconceptions often based on scarce and distorted information and spread by an aggressive and polemical literature. Francis said, this too makes crooked the path of God, which is straight and directed to concord and unity. He said concrete joint works of charity, education, and efforts to promote human dignity can help Catholics and Orthodox rediscover our fraternity, and communion will mature by itself to the praise of God. On his part, Bishop Chrysostomos said, the Cryoptic Church enjoys excellent relations with all churches and has in recent years pursued dialogue with Muslim leaders in the Middle East. An effort, he said, was largely ruined by the extremist elements who inflamed passions. And now for story 12. Lebanon's information minister resigned Friday in a bid to ease an unprecedented diplomatic crisis with Saudi Arabia and another Gulf countries that has added to Lebanon's multiple crises. Minister George Kordahi made the announcement at a press conference in Beirut weeks after televised comments he made that was critical of Saudi Arabia's war in Yemen sparked the crisis. Saudi Arabia has recalled its ambassador and banned all Lebanese imports in response to Kadohi's initial comments, affecting hundreds of businesses and cutting off hundreds of millions in foreign currency to Lebanon, which is already facing a major economic meltdown. Kadohi had refused to resign over the comments made before he assumed his cabinet post, prolonging the crisis. After some thinking, I decided that time is suitable to offer something that gets Lebanon out of the crisis, Kadohi said Friday. I hope that this resignation opens the window or a gap in this wall for better relations with the Gulf, he added. Lebanon's government, headed by Mctague, is embroiled in another crisis triggered when Lebanon's Iran-backed Hezbollah group protested the course of state's investigation into Beirut's port's explosion last year. And now A short break from the daily English news Millennium News 24/7. Stay
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 daily local news update. Here is our story 13. France announced the signing Friday of a 16 billion euro, which is $18 billion, amendment mega contract for a sale of 80 of its Rafale warplanes to the United Arab Emirates. The French Defense Ministry said the deal was France's largest ever weapon contract for export. It came as French President Emmanuel Macron is in the Emirates on the first stop of a 2-day visit to the Persian Gulf. There was no immediate confirmation of the deal from the Emirati officials. Manufacturer Dassault Aviation said the UAE is buying the upgraded F4 version of its multi-role combat aircraft that will make the Emirates Air Force the first users outside of France of the Rafale F4, it said. The deal offers a shot in the arm for France's defense industry after the collapse of a $66 billion contract for Australia to buy 12 French submarines. Dassault Aviation boss Eric Trappier calls the sale a French success story and excellent news for France and for its aeronautical industry. Macron's keen interest in forging personal relationships with leaders like Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, and his counterparts in Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, makes him a welcome guest in the region. Both Gulf leaders value a degree of pragmatism when discussing democracy and human rights, issues on which their countries have been heavily criticized by rights groups and European lawmakers, while pursuing business opportunities. The UAE and France have also become increasingly aligned over a shared mistrust of Islamist political parties across the Middle East and back the same side in Libya's civil strife. Now to story 14. Bars, restaurants, and gyms reopened in Auckland on Friday as the last major part of the lockdown that lasted more than 100 days ended. New Zealand has begun a new phase in its coronavirus response in which there won't be a lockdown, but people will be required to be fully vaccinated and prove it with vaccine passes in order to access many services. The government decided that the vaccination rates were high enough to switch to the new system, with about 80% of people aged 12 and over fully vaccinated. In Auckland, which has been at the center of nation's outbreak, the rate is over 90%. The threat posed by the new Omicron variant did not change plans for the reopening, and after New Zealand on Sunday restricted travels from 9 southern African countries. No cases of Omicron have been found in New Zealand, and officials remain confident cases will be caught at the border by the quarantine system. On Friday, there was a feeling of excitement among patrons at Auckland, some of whom visited bars the moment they were allowed to open at midnight. Michael Barnett, the chief executive of Auckland Business Chambers, said there was a sense of relief for many business owners who would try to make the most of the next couple of weeks before Christmas. He said many owners were trying to come to terms with new obligations to check vaccine passes. Some restrictions still remain. Auckland's borders to the rest of the country does not reopen until mid-December. And now for story 15. Australia would set a more ambitious target of reducing its greenhouse gases emission by 43% by the end of the decade if the government changed hands in elections early next year, the opposition leader said on Friday. Center-left Labour Party leader Anthony Albanese set climate policies as a battle line at elections expected to be held between March and May. Prime Minister Scott Morrison was widely criticized at the UN Climate Summit in Scotland last month over his Conservative government's target of reducing Australia's emissions by only 26% to 28% below the 2005 levels by 2030. It was the same target Australia adopted at the Paris Summit in 2015, while other wealthier countries have pledged far deeper cuts in a bid to contain global warming to less than 1.5 degrees Celsius. But Morrison said labor targets would increase electricity prices and cost jobs. We are on our way to a net zero by 2050, Morris said. We are not on our way to drive people out of their jobs and force up their electricity prices. Morrison's coalition was narrowly re-elected in 2019 when Labour promised to cut emissions by 45% by 2030 and achieve a net zero by 2050. And now for story 16. More than 60 organizations urged the UN General Assembly on Thursday to establish an investigation body to gather and preserve evidence of serious human rights violations during Yemen's 7-year conflict, including possible war crimes and crimes against humanity. The organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, said that the matter is urgent, particularly after the UN Human Rights Council voted in October to shut down its investigations into atrocities in Yemen. The group of the eminent experts had reported that potential war crimes have been committed by all sides. the Geneva-based council voted was a stinging defeat for Western nations and victory for Russia, China, Bahrain, and other countries. Yemen has been convulsed by civil war since 2014, when Iran-backed Houthi rebels took control of the capital Sana'a and much of the northern part of the country. That forced the internationally recognized government to flee to the south and then to Saudi Arabia. A Saudi-led coalition entered the war in March of 2015, backed by the United States to try to restore President Abd Rabbu Mansur Hadi to power. Despite the relentlessness, air campaign, and ground fighting, the war has deteriorated largely into a stalemate and has spawned the world's worst humanitarian crisis. The more than 60 organizations said the Human Rights Council voted in October was the result of an aggressive lobbying campaign by the Saudi Arabia, backed by the United Arab Emirates, a key coalition partner, and other allies. This was in the daily local news updates of Millennium News 24/7. Log in to get the latest news. All of our social networking sites are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is Millennium News 24. Also, our YouTube channel is News Channel M24. Viewers now on both network broadcasting Androids and iOS devices, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire. Also, all smart TV platforms. Please enjoy our entertainment and latest news and views. Our Millennium TV app, Millennium TV USA Android, and Millennium News Google, plus www.millenniumtv24.com. Stay with Millennium News 24, and thank you for watching.